Perhaps you've seen it, maybe in a dream, a murky, forgotten land. A place where souls may mend your ailing mind. You will lose everything once branded, the symbol of the curse, an augur of darkness. Your past, your future, your very light. None will have meaning, and you won't even care. By then, you'll be something other than human. A thing that feeds on souls, a hollow. Long ago, in a walled-off land far to the north, a great king built a great kingdom. I believe they called it Drang Lake. Perhaps you're familiar. No, how could you be? But one day, you will stand before its decrepit gate without really knowing why. Like a moth drawn to a flame, your wings will burn in anguish, time after time. For that is your fate, the fate of the cursed.
What's up YouTube, Dan the Platinum Man here. You're probably wondering why this video about Kena Bridge of Spirits started off like a Dark Souls video. That's because, while this game looks like a Jak and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, Sly Cooper, or some other lovable PlayStation mascot platform / puzzle game, in all actuality, it's a game that is heavily focused on combat and that is just as hard, if not harder, than Dark Souls. No, this isn't an exaggeration, so let's dive in. The major difficulty from this game comes from being forced to play on the game's hardest difficulty, Master Spirit Guide. This means that most of the time you are only a few hits away from death at all times, meaning you're expected to play this game almost perfectly. The game can't decide on whether it wants you to become a parrying god or a dodging god. For a fair part of the game, there's a focus on parrying. But once you get to the second major boss, the game decides that it wants to have a lot more enemies have attacks that must either be dodged or blocked. They simply cannot be parried. So, the game has trouble picking whether you should dedicate your time to parrying, dodging, or blocking. I was also mistaken in thinking that playing on master difficulty from the get go would end up saving me time. It may have, but it nearly gave me an aneurysm at times. And the trophies are both easy and tricky. The first two trophies are pretty simple, gotten from meeting the first rot, lovable creatures similar to Pikmin, and from arriving at the village, the main hub for the game. Then we can focus a bit on some of the combat trophies, like taking out a shield enemy without destroying his shield. I also got lucky and got to destroy 3 enemies with a single parry, as that saves me a lot of hassle for down the road. I restore a flower shrine with the aspect of the crucible, rot, and make my way into the next area, the forest, for another trophy. Making my way through the forest, collecting more rot, crystal currency, yelling at the enemies for being able to two-shot me with off-screen projectiles, I find the next mini-boss, the Kappa. Yeah, the game could have used some more enemy variety, as a fair amount of the bosses are recycled, even more so than Elden Ring. The other annoying thing is a large majority of the bosses have infinitely respawning enemies, which, besides compounding the fact that 2 or 3 hits of anything will end you, make crowd control basically pointless. This is a huge issue with the fights that spawn in the moth enemies, as they will charge you and lob exploding fireballs at you from off screen, making already difficult fights that much worse. So, the Kappa fight is a pain, since he usually runs away when you get close, so you need to increase your courage to use the rot to immobilize him so that you can wail away. Yeah, don't get used to using that power on bosses, as most of the hard late game fights can't be stunned but with rot like this. Thankfully, this fight nets us the use rot command the rot commander trophy for using 5 rot actions in a single combat. We head up to Russo Mountain, learn how to use the bow, and clear out the first area of all of its collectibles, the extra rot, hats for the rot, charms, and get ready for to fight the next boss that will be reused throughout the game, the Wood Knight. It's bad enough that to get to this fight, we have to fight several waves of the annoying monkey enemies. But then the Wood Knight is pretty hard to deal with too, although everything he does can be parried, which will make the fight go much faster if you're able to parry. The game does a poor job of explaining how to parry, and it is significantly more difficult than Dark Souls, Elden Ring, and Bloodborne. In order to nail the parry window, you have to hard press L1 just before the enemy attack connects. Too early and you'll go into a block. Too late and you'll get hit. It's also annoying as the rot stun move still lets this boss attack twice, which even hits behind himself. This took me forever and is not a good sign for things to come. Bosses will also act like they do in Elden Ring, where they will delay their attacks to hit you if you roll too early or are spamming the dodge roll. You can also shoot the glowing yellow crystals to stun the boss and gain extra courage, but he only has 3 of these. Also, you can pick up the loose courage by hitting the pulse button instead of walking over it. When this boss finally goes down, you'll get a trophy. I then took a photo in photo mode for another trophy. Next combat trophy is Bow Master, gotten from using the Rot Stun move on an enemy, then shooting the enemy so that arrows bounce to other enemies. Pretty simple, just do it in a horde of enemies. Following the story of the game, after clearing 4 challenges to light 4 torches, we can unlock the next boss who will be reused, the Sprout Captain. This dual-wielding wood demon is much easier to parry and goes down much sooner than the previous boss, although it's still annoying as there are no heals around. Oh, I forgot to mention, in order to heal, you need a full courage slot, and for there to be a blue flower nearby. This is made more difficult as every time you take damage on Master Spirit difficulty, your courage will go down, meaning that the situation that causes you to need to heal makes you unable to heal. It also makes finding Rot more of an obligation, as you need to level up the Rot level in order to hold more courage, and make sure to get the skill in the skill tree that lets you start fights with 1 full courage gauge. Once this boss goes down, another trophy is earned. Up next is a new mini-boss who will be a recurring enemy, the Mage. This enemy has a trophy attached as well. You must defeat one by bouncing its red tracking ball back at it. This attack is one of the few ranged attacks that can actually be parried. Most ranged attacks can't. I ended up getting this trophy later on. Up next is the Shrine Guardian. This boss sucks. He has hordes of the scrub enemies that infinitely respawn. There will only ever be 4 of them at a time, but they're still annoying, as some will even throw rocks at you from off screen. The boss has some weak points and has a one-time damage boost you can do using the Rot when it does the Blooming Flower attack. The Rot attack will do about 20% of its overall health damage. Just push through it and get the next trophy. Then we can head on to the next boss, Corrupted Tarot. This boss is actually fun and has a few good gimmicks and patterns. Most of his attacks can be parried and have fair timing, and he can be consistently stunned by shooting the lantern on his neck when the lantern is lit. And you can even use the Rot to stun him for a time. This was my favorite boss fight in the game, as it's the most fair and balanced. After sending Taro to the afterlife, we head on to the next area and learn our next ability. Like Goku, we get a spirit bomb that can also somehow rewind time on stone objects. The bomb doesn't do too much damage to enemies, but the utility lies in dealing with the moss, the rot eaters, and the stupid weird stone armadillo things. The stun it can do to mini bosses, and when you unlock the rot version of it, can cause a stasis field that can continually stun lock all enemies except the final boss. Shortly after, we can get 2 more trophies. By hitting a moth with a bomb, they will be unable to fly and fall to the ground. Then, by quickly shooting a bomb out of the air with an arrow to defeat an enemy, you'll get another. Then, once you can open the next area, you'll get your next trophy. Shortly after was when I got the trophy for killing a mage with their own bomb. Next on the list is getting to take down the next unique boss, the Vine Knight, or as I like to call him, Forest Hentai. He was a pain, but by abusing rot abilities, he'll fall in no time. Continuing on, we get to one of the most annoying bosses in the whole game, the Stone Guardian. This boss is exactly like the Shrine Guardian, except we can't damage him until we hit his weak points. But we can't hit the weak points until we hit the boss with a bomb first. And even then, you'll be lucky to hit them, as the arena is much smaller than the Shrine Guardian, and the scrubs are super annoying. I died more to them than to the boss. The boss can also throw a rock at you. Just really annoying. Also really annoying is if you're too close to the flowers that can heal you for too long, you'll auto die, making the arena even smaller than it seems. This boss sucked, and I'm glad we don't have to fight more of them. Beating him nets us the next trophy. Then I got lucky doing one of the cursed chests and managed to get the combat trophy for hitting 3 weak spots in 3 seconds. The next boss is both unique and not. It's the only time you fight one, but it's just a bigger version of the Rot Eaters, the lizard enemies you fight. You also have access to the aspect of the Crucible Rot form, which can make this fight a breeze if you time it right. Also, throwing a bomb on the lizards makes them unable to attack or move, as they are basically drowning. Trophy down, and onto supreme bullshit. The main boss of this area is stupidly hard, and starts to have the annoying trend of bosses having attacks that can't be parried. As you will die in 2 to 3 hits anyway, I recommend using the charm Reckless Strength, which drastically increases the damage you deal with the staff. The Corrupted Woodsmith is just a huge pain. She'll start off the fight invincible. You have to hit the central metal structure with a bomb, and then shoot the crystal inside 3 times. This will drop the armor and stun the boss, so go wail on her. The second time around, there will be 2 soldier enemies as well, but breaking the crystal will make them disappear. The third time this happens, the boss will progress to phase 2 and shit gets real. The projectile attack is best blocked, while the swipe attacks are best dodged. The ideal attack to parry is the leaping lunge, which will let you do large damage. If the boss ever goes to hammer at the fire, besides jumping over the rings, do what you can to stop her, as when she does this, this will continually summon 2 soldier enemies along with extra rings of fire that will absolutely screw you over. If you hit the boss with a bomb, a weak point will be exposed, and once it's broken, it will stun the boss, although this is a one-time deal. This boss is cheap and ridiculous, and I was so happy when it went down. If it wasn't for the ordeal of the final boss, this would hands down be the worst boss in the whole game. After this, we go confront the bastard from the beginning of the game and unlock our final ability, the dash. This can only be used on the ground and consumes the shield gauge to use, but will cause an explosion like Wrath of the Gods from Dark Souls that, most importantly, stuns and interrupts every enemy it hits. Hands down, the best ability in the game. After this ability, I spent some time delivering mail in the village and then doing the spirit quests. I completed all cursed chests and got the trophy, and then got the final combat trophy for defeating 3 enemies with a single dash attack. Now, we have 3 bosses coming up after puzzle areas. These can be tackled in any order, but here's how I went. At this point, bosses generally cannot be parried with their attacks. First, I fought the Mask Maker, who, by abusing the time spot bomb and the perfectly timed heavy attacks, went down after I learned that he has no moves you can parry. Then I went and fought the Warrior, one of the better bosses in the game, though I ended up cheesing him with the same strategy for the Mask Maker. Finally, I took down the Hunter, the most annoying boss of this trio. This boss fights with a bow and annoying traps. The boss also flies. The trick is when he is flying, you throw one bomb that the hunter will lock onto and shoot, during which time you need to land the second bomb on him and make it explode before he can shake it off. Be quick, as he will blow up bombs in your hands, doing massive damage to you. This boss pissed me off, even though there's a move you can parry. At this point, I went and did some cleanup around the village and some other areas, delivering all the spirit mail, collecting all the rot, cleansing all the flower shrines, maxing out my health through meditation, and getting 50 hats. I then went to go grind out some karma points for a good 30 minutes to unlock all but one of the skills on the skill tree, and then decided it was time to go kick Toshi's ass. We march up to corrupted Toshi, who can bounce both our arrows and our bombs back at us. The trick is to use your dash move to stun him, then wail on him with perfect heavy attacks. Once he teleports, shoot him right when his eyes start glowing yellow, wail on him, and abuse the rot bombs to end the fight quickly. Beating Toshi, he of course pulls the villain move and sets up a revenge match. Beating him gave enough points to unlock the final skill in the tree, and then we get a free trophy for reaching the final area. Now we move on to the worst fight in this whole game, a 5-phase fight of pure, unadulterated bullshit. I hope you unlocked the bow upgrades for the quiver. You'll need them. The corrupted rot god is a test of endurance. The best charm for this fight is healing, which gives you health every time you gain courage. If you are in last hit range, any courage picked up will give you another hit you can tank. Also, you won't have your rot abilities until the end of Phase 2. Phase 1 requires you to dodge with the dash move and pelt the crystal clusters with arrows. It takes 4 charged shots to destroy one cluster of crystals, and upon destroying several of them, you will be knocked into Phase 2. A fight that starts with 2 waves of normal enemies, a brief break, and then a final wave against several enemies and a stupid wood knight. Healing should be paying dividends here. Phase 3 is much like Phase 1, but with only 4 targets to shoot at and a new giant laser attack to dodge, which also feels like a crapshoot as sometimes Kenna would just fall faster for some reason. And you only have a single slot of Rot Courage available. Once you break all the spots, you'll be taken to Phase 4, a brief platforming section that is annoying as sometimes the pieces won't all spawn in or you'll just fall through the platforms. At the end here, you'll gain the rest of your rot back, letting you hold all 5 courage slots again. Now onto the final phase. Pure bullshit. This phase is obscene, as there will be dozens of enemies spawning all over, moths and soldiers. Sure, they all die in 2 hits, but the swarm is ridiculous. You will need 3 courage slots to beat the boss. When the boss charges its new super, a lightning nuke straight out of Elden Ring, 3 spears on its back light up. If you have a full rot charge, you can send them to yank out a spear, and the screen nuke will be cancelled. Healing pays multiple dividends here with all the enemies, especially those that fall due to the laser. Once you manage to persevere through, the boss will fall, and you will need to send the rot to the flower and destroy it. Now, we just have several scenes to sit through, and then finally, upon meditating on the final spot, the game will end and the platinum will pop. This was one of the most difficult games I have played in a long time. And I've platinumed Bloodborne, Dark Souls Remastered, and Elden Ring. The game really likes to contradict itself, focusing on trying to have you parry for the first half, then saying, guess what, most of the rest of the shit can't be parried. The game looks like it'd be a fun, whimsical journey, but is instead tougher than nails and arguably harder than FromSoft games, because at least in FromSoft games, you have an Estus Flask that you can use whenever able. Half of the boss fights in this game don't even have healing flowers that you can use. Getting the platinum trophy in this game is easily an 8 out of 10 due to the sheer difficulty of the bosses, and even the general enemy fights were difficult. As for the patented ranking on the Dan the Platinum Man ranking scale, the game is a 77 out of 100. The presentation is amazing. The sense of progress is great as every area purged of rot goes back to looking pristine and wondrous. The abilities are mostly fun and meaningful, and you feel like a god when you manage to parry an attack. But the difficulty of this challenge just isn't fun, and I swear I had an aneurysm from a 14-hour play session trying to platinum this in time before it leaves PS Plus. And the game can't decide whether it's better to parry or dodge, as halfway through the game decides to make parrying not viable for the rest of the bosses. But with that, this month is a mission accomplished with 6 games platinumed: Animal Well, Tales of Kenzera Zao, Nor Play With Your Food, Deliver Us the Moon, Deliver Us Mars, and now Kena Bridge of Spirits. What do you mean Disco Elysium is leaving too? Oh well. Until next time, like and subscribe, and remember, only losers think this game is for kids when it's actually harder than most official Souls games.